Namaste and welcome back to Typical Monk. Today, we look inside a flower, pollen, and the embryo sac, pollination, and the double fertilization that only angiosperms do, all in simple language and drilled the neat way too, one idea at a time. Here is today's path. 5 stops. First, the reproductive parts of a flower. Second, microsporogenesis and the pollen grain. Third, Megasporogenesis and the embryo sac. Fourth, pollination and double fertilization. And fifth, NEET drills, that is, assertion, match, and statement. First, let's understand the two halves of a flower. The stamen is the male part, a filament and an anther. The anther is bilobed with 4 pollen sacs, that is, microsporangia. The pistil, that is the carpel, is the female part. Stigma, style, and ovary. The ovary holds the ovules. The anther makes pollen, the male gametophyte, and each ovule makes the embryo sac, the female gametophyte. And both gametophytes begin with meiosis, one inside the anther, the other inside the ovule. Now the male side, how pollen forms in the anther. Inside the anther, microspore mother cells undergo meiosis, microspore tetrads form, and each microspore becomes a pollen grain. The pollen wall has 2 layers, a tough outer exine made of sporopollenin and carrying germ pores, and an inner intine. The innermost anther wall layer, the tapetum, nourishes the developing pollen. When shed, the pollen grain is usually 2-celled, a large vegetative cell and a small generative cell. Now the female side, the embryo sac. Inside the ovule, a megaspore mother cell undergoes meiosis, and 4 megaspores form. Usually one, the chalazal one, survives, the other 3 degenerate. This is called monosporic development. The surviving functional megaspore undergoes 3 mitotic divisions, forming a 7-celled, 8-nucleate embryo sac. Its layout at the micropyle, the egg apparatus, that is the egg and 2 synergids, at the chalaza, 3 antipodals, and in the middle, 1 central cell holding 2 polar nuclei. Now getting pollen to the stigma, that is pollination. Pollination, the transfer of pollen grains from the anther to the stigma. Autogamy, pollen, reaches the stigma of the same flower, that is self-pollination. Gytonogamy, pollen moves to another flower of the same plant, but genetically, this is still self-pollination. Synagamy, pollen comes from a different plant, only this brings genetically new pollen. Its agents, wind, water, and insects. Now, the angiosperm signature, double fertilization. The pollen tube grows down the style, enters the ovule through the micropyle, and then enters a synergid. There it releases 2 male gametes into the embryo sac. 1 gamete fuses with the egg. This is syngamy, forming a diploid zygote. The other fuses with the 2 polar nuclei. This is triple fusion, forming a triploid endosperm nucleus. These 2 events together are called double fertilization. After it, the zygote becomes the embryo, the endosperm nucleus becomes the endosperm, the ovule becomes the seed, and the ovary becomes the fruit. Now, the high-yield pointers, the facts that NEET turns into questions. 1. The embryo sac, 7-celled 8-nucleate, egg apparatus 3, antipodals 3, and the central cell with 2 polar nuclei. 2. The zygote is diploid and the endosperm is triploid. 3. Double fertilization, that is syngamy and triple fusion, happens only in angiosperms. 4. The exine is made of sporopollenin, the most resistant organic material, and the intine of cellulose and pectin. 5. The ovule becomes the seed, the ovary becomes the fruit, and the integuments become the seed coat. Now the first drill, assertion and reason. Each time, ask, is it true? Is R true? And does R explain A? First, the endosperm is triploid, or it forms when 1 male gamete fuses with the 2 polar nuclei. Both are true, and R correctly explains A, so the answer is A. Second, pollen grains of all angiosperms are shed at the 3-cell stage. R, the generative cell, divides to form 2 male gametes. Here, A is false because pollen is usually two-celled, but R is true, so the answer is D. Third, a double fertilization is unique to angiosperms. R, it combines syngamy and triple fusion in one embryo sac. Both are true and R explains A, so the answer is A. Now, the second drill, match the column. Make the correct pairing. Egg apparatus, the egg and two synergids. Triple fusion, the triploid endosperm nucleus. Sporopollenin, the egg sign of the pollen. And the functional megaspore, the embryo sac. Now the third drill. How many of these statements are correct? Check them one by one. First, the embryo sac is 7-celled and 8-nucleate. This is correct. Second, the zygote is triploid. This is wrong. Third, double fertilization involves syngamy and triple fusion. This is correct. So the correct statements, 2, that is, the first and the third. Now let's clear the mistakes students fall for. Myth, the endosperm is diploid, just like the zygote. Truth, the endosperm is triploid, only the zygote is diploid. Myth, the embryo sac has 8 cells. Truth, it is 8-nucleate but 7-celled because the central cell holds 2 nuclei. Now test yourself. Answer each one before it is revealed. Answer first. That is how you build strong NEET recall. Question 1. How many cells and nuclei in the embryo sac? Answer: 7 cells, 8 nuclei. Question 2. The ploidy of the endosperm? Triploid. Question 3. The two fusion events together are called? Double fertilization. Question 4. The ovary develops into? The fruit. Question 5. The tough outer pollen wall is made of? Sporopollenin. Let's gather it all in one breath. The stamen makes pollen. The pistil holds the ovules. The meiosis of the microspore and megaspore mother cells builds the pollen and the embryo sac. The embryo sac is 7-celled, 8-nucleate. Pollination types: orthogamy, gytonogamy, and xenogamy. Double fertilization, syngamy gives the diploid zygote, and triple fusion gives the triploid endosperm. In the next class, the human side, human reproduction. See you there. From one flower to a seed, the whole angiosperm life cycle is now yours. Be proud. One idea at a time with a calm mind, and you will crack NEET. This is Typical Monk. Every class, always free.